Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. Welcome back to a brand new match preview on the channel. Premier League football returns once again. Very quick turnaround in games. We're back at Molineux this week. A Tuesday evening under the lights fixture against Fulham. A chance for Wolves to hopefully build on the 1-0 win over Bournemouth and continue some momentum and continue our little run to try and stay in the Premier League. As always, we're giving my thoughts. We've just had Vitor Pereira's pre-match press conference, and we'll have the opposition perspective later on in the video as well. But let me know your thoughts and score predictions in the comments section as well. But like I've just said, Vitor has just finished his pre-match press conference, and in terms of team news, not much has changed since Saturday. There's always a little bit of a worry when you have a quick turnaround in games if there was a certain player that picked up a knock or anything from Saturday's game. But as it stands, it's still only Agbadu out, Hwang Hee-chan out, and still Rodrigo Gomez out. Gedge is still a doubt, but he's had an MRI on a scan, so it sounds like he'll be ruled out as well. But Vitor Pereira was asked about a selection headache. He said he always has headaches, but it's a good headache to have. We did our podcast, which is just released this morning. Well worth a watch if you haven't already caught it. And a big discussion there was Manetzi or Strand Larsen to start. Wolves had a promising performance in the second half against Liverpool. Vitor Pereira kept with that team and ultimately did quite a good job on Saturday as well. So really now it'll be interesting to see who Vitor goes with. Obviously, I'll give my predicted lineup shortly, but Martial Manetzi has been such an intriguing addition to the starting lineup because when he was signed, I think everybody was under the assumption and impression that he was coming in as like a holding midfielder, maybe with a slight defensive side to him. But really, every game he's played so far for Wolves, the Blackburn game when he came off the bench, where he was sort of slightly more advanced, the Liverpool game almost as a false nine, and again against Bournemouth he played that same position. And he has been causing havoc. Now, he has missed some great opportunities. We mentioned that. He's picking up the fantastic pockets of space. But yeah, just that finishing touch from Manetzi at the moment is missing. But surely you would go with, if he's fit, you go with the proper number 9 in Jurgen Strand Larsen. So I am interested to see how Vitor approaches it and what he does and what changes for this game against Fulham on Tuesday evening, who again have had a mixed season themselves, some real strong patches of form and then inconsistencies really letting them down, which we'll talk about on the opposition perspective as well. But it's a game that I'll go into and you'll see some of the stats popping up on the screen throughout the video. We have got very good form against Fulham at Molineux, and I really hope, and I believe it can continue as well on Tuesday. Fulham are a great team. They've got a couple of our former favourites in Raul Jimenez and Adama Traore. Raul, I think, will start. Adama did start the last game, so may well start this one as well. But obviously, I hope they have a dismal evening at Molineux on Tuesday as well. Let's jump into my predicted lineup, though. On the screen now, Sarr, I think, will stay in goal. Only minimal changes, actually, to be fair, from Bournemouth's game. And I think the only change I would make is Manetzi out and Strand Larsen in. There is every chance that Martial Manetzi may well start and Vitor may well stay with the exact same team that started against Bournemouth. But I think the way, I think, he had the full 45 yesterday, on Saturday, sorry. I think Jurgen will start. And then obviously the rest of the team. Sarr, Semedo, Doc, Bueno, Totti, Aït-Nouri, Andre and João Gomez once again holding in the midfield, and Matheus Cunha. And I think Jean-Rick the Bellegarde, who has had a fantastic turnaround in form, and hopefully that will continue with Jurgen Strand Larsen. It'd be lovely. Obviously, I really want Cunha to continue his hot form that he's on at the moment, but it's lovely to see Jurgen grab a goal as well. Hopefully, he went for a little bit of a sticky patch before his injury, so I'm hoping that he can grab a goal full of confidence onto a really promising stretch of fixtures between now and the end of the season. But although we've got a little bit of breathing space, there is still a lot of work for Wolves to do, and games like this one against Fulham are a great opportunity to get some points on the board. But we cannot take it for granted. They're a good team. They've been in good form, but we will wait and see. So I'll hand over now to the chat that I had a little bit earlier on with Elizabeth from Fulhamish. She gives her thoughts on Fulham's season so far and what we may be able to expect from Marco Silva's side tomorrow. So then, Elizabeth, thank you very much for joining us on Talking Wolves. Firstly, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem at all. We'll talk about Wolves versus Fulham, an interesting game coming up at Molineux. Of course, the reverse fixture, Wolves had one of their biggest wins of the season, although, obviously Fulham went down to 10 men, so maybe the scoreline flattered us a little bit, let's say. Before we talk about last weekend for Fulham, how's the season been overall for you? Sat around mid-table right now. You were a little bit higher earlier on in the season, but what's the sort of mood amongst the Fulham fans at the moment?
The mood among the Fulham fans at the moment, honestly, is quite high, but we're just wishing that we could have a bit more consistency. Obviously, you mentioned the reverse fixture. I think that was a really good example of that. We lost that game and then we went on to draw with Spurs, Arsenal, Liverpool, beat Brighton, beat Chelsea in December, and then draw with Southampton, Ipswich. Yeah. And it's been very similar recently. So we've had amazing wins against Forest and Newcastle, but we have lost against Manchester United and Crystal Palace. So we're just really struggling to find that consistency. I would say the mood in the camp, though, is still very positive, even though this weekend for us just gone was really disappointing. And the Cup is also a really big focus for Fulham fans this season. So we're really hoping that we can have a run in the FA Cup.
Yeah, I think, Wolves are in the Cup as well. We've got a tough game against Bournemouth. Obviously, you've got Manchester United, who are just really inconsistent as well at the moment. You just don't know what to expect from United. But it's nice, I think, for fans sort of around our sort of level. The FA Cup is, especially this year, looks like a really enticing opportunity, doesn't it? There's a massive chance. And for Wolves and Fulham fans that don't really get the opportunity to see their team play much at Wembley or in the big matches, it is an exciting opportunity. But, you mentioned that game against Palace. It was a 2-0 defeat at Craven Cottage. What went wrong for you? I know Marco Silva pinned a little bit of the blame on the referees, but I just don't think it wasn't a brilliant performance overall, was it?
No. What went wrong? It would be quicker to ask what went right, and I could say pretty much nothing. It's one of those where the referee didn't always make decisions that favoured us, and that's fine. But ultimately, if the referee had been really kind to us that day, we still would have lost. Palace just totally outclassed us across the pitch, and we were sloppy, and both in front of our own goal, but also tried to score goals. It's really a day to forget for Fulham, and we're coming in such good run of form.
Yeah, I was just sort of looking. I didn't really. Maybe I didn't appreciate. I knew Fulham were doing okay, and again we go back to that word inconsistent. But like you just mentioned, look, before the Palace game, ignoring the FA Cup, back-to-back wins against Newcastle and Forest, who are teams flying towards the top end of the table as well. I'm sure I would have already mentioned on this preview earlier on in the video, but Wolves' form against Fulham at Molineux is actually very good, and I'm sure we'll have a chat on your channel later on, and I'll probably mention that as well, because I was thinking yesterday, I was like, I can't actually remember many games where we've lost out to Fulham. I'm hoping I'm not going to jinx it, but we've always had decent form. We had the 4-4 draw, if you remember, in the Championship some years. It's probably about 10 years ago now, actually, probably longer ago than that I'm thinking about there. But it's always been a favourable fixture for Wolves. But there are always those players that can come back to haunt their old clubs. You've got Raul Jimenez and Adama Traore, obviously. Elizabeth, for you, it's great as a Wolves fan to see Raul backfiring as well, because he, after his injury, struggled a little bit. I don't think the management at Wolves at the time I think it was Lopetegui, sort of left him out. But he's scoring goals, and he's had a really productive season so far for Fulham, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favourite players, certainly, in the side. There have been a lot of calls among Fulham fans to get a new striker in, but personally, I don't massively see the need at this point when we've got Raul and Rodrigo Muniz being able to produce the goals between them of a Premier League striker. When he first came to the club, it was a really difficult betting process for Raul, to be honest. He didn't score for a long time. He was incredibly unconfident in front of goal, and fans were chanting the names of our backup strikers that are no longer on the scene. So it's really difficult. But now I think we know he's not the fastest player in the world. We know his shortcomings. But having said that, he's got a really good reading of the game and a really good attacking nous when it strikes. And some of our most impressive goals this season have been down to individual brilliance from him.
Yeah, he had that knack even at Wolves. He just creates something out of nothing sometimes, where the ball looked dead, or he's got his back to goal, and all of a sudden he's spun and the ball's in the back of the net. And I've seen a couple of those goals. Shows off his flair at times as well. He's got a knack for a Rabona or a back heel every now and then. But another one of those players is Adama Traore, which I think if the team lineups come out tomorrow and he's starting for Fulham, Wolves fans will be like, oh no, but. Is it the same Adama Traore that we had at Wolves, where you get all the excitement, you get off your feet just to be disappointed?
Yeah, my lasting memory of Adama Traore at Wolves, maybe a bit of a niche one, but was a Fulham Wolves fixture in 2021 at the Cottage.
Yeah.
And Adama Traore scored a last-minute winner.
Yeah, that was a big goal for us. Yeah,
and it was a big goal for us, but in the opposite way. It was a big one to concede. It is like that, if I'm honest. Like, he is very exciting in flashes, but it's hard for him to be consistent. And in front of goal, he's generally not as strong. There was a game at the Etihad earlier this season where he had like an incredible hat trick of missed chances. Obviously, he didn't score a single one of them. When it works for Adama, it works and it's amazing. And against Forest, some of his crosses were incredible. He put one straight on the head of Emile Smith-Rowe, of all players. But on the other side, he is quite a frustrating player to watch. So it's difficult. I hope that he can show up. I hope there'll be a little bit of fire in his belly about this one, to be honest.
Yeah, no, definitely. It sounds like the same Adamo. I mean, we had him and there were just flashes of brilliance. He had one season, I think it was when we were in the Europa League, where him and Raul had phenomenal seasons in terms of goal contributions. But I think he's almost every manager's dream. I think every manager that has him is like, well, I want to be the manager that can get the best out of Adama Traore. And he'll show flashes of brilliance at times, but normally, unfortunately for us fans and Adama, of course, it ends up in disappointment. But I mean, I'm hoping both players have a quiet evening at Molineux, but it will be nice to see them back anyway. Elizabeth, what's the aspirations for the rest of the season? You mentioned a cup run, it'd be great. Do you think Fulham can have a late push again for Europe, or do you think that ship sailed now?
Yeah, I think the dream is still to get to the Conference League. Any Fulham fan would snap your hand off for that. Obviously, the actual dream is to win the FA Cup and get Europa League through that. But I definitely think it's possible. Saturday was a harsh blip, I hope. But I'm hoping that we'll be able to be more consistent going forwards.
I think Wolves fans, I mean, me included, to be fair, probably looked at Saturday's defeat for you guys. And obviously, we beat Bournemouth. And I'm going into this game of Molineux sort of rubbing my hands together, thinking, oh, is there another opportunity for us to get a win here? But then, I've just got your fixtures and your results up and looked the last couple of weeks, you've got some massive wins there as well. Is there, off the top of your head, is there an obvious pattern in terms of your home versus away form, or is it pretty equal?
We're pretty good away from home, to be honest.
Okay.
We got some big results away from home this season. Even thinking the last couple of months, we've beaten Chelsea and Newcastle away from home. We drew at Anfield, albeit they were down to 10.
Yeah.
We also drew at Spurs. Actually, maybe not that impressive.
And finally, Marco Silva, there was a lot of speculation, was it 12 months, maybe 2 years ago, about him moving on to Saudi. He's stuck at Fulham. He's had a really impressive season. I think there's a lot of people sort of warming towards Marco Silva now, isn't there?
Yeah, we lost our best player in the summer, João Palhinha,
yeah,
and we've managed to move on, and it's been fine. And we've been almost better. He's managed to bring new players into that position. And obviously it's slightly different, and we're having to rely on two players staying injury-free, not just one. But I think he's one of the most underrated managers in the league.
No. I think that's a fair point as well. I think that we did our podcast, which was released earlier today, and we said about that. He's very well liked, very well rated manager as well. I don't know if there's ever been a time with the Portuguese link. I think he may have been linked to Wolves maybe a long time ago, but I think now there'll probably be some bigger sides looking at him. Obviously there was the Saudi links previously, but I think with Fulham, London-based club, I think if he gets the backing, he's got every chance to go on. And of course, you may go on to get Europe this season, which would be massive for you guys. Elizabeth, before we finish, score prediction. What are you thinking for the game?
I'm gonna I'm going to go optimistic for us, and I'm going to say 1-2.
Yeah, I think that's probably, either way, I think that's probably a fair result. Both teams to score, someone to edge it. Let's wait and see. But where can people find you and the Fulhamish content, Elizabeth, if they wish?
We're Fulhamish Podcast on anywhere you find your podcast, and also on YouTube, at Fulhamish Pod on Twitter, and you can find me at esbarnard_ on Twitter.
No problem. I'll make sure I leave the links in the description down below, and I'll be over on the Fulhamish channel as well, giving my Wolves perspective for their preview as well. But yeah, apart from tomorrow, Elizabeth, all the best for the rest of the season. I'll catch you soon.
Thank you.
So big thanks to Elizabeth and the Fulhamish guys. I'll make sure I leave a link to them and their podcast in the description down below. And apologies for the brightness of this video going all over the place. It's actually sunny and bright, and it's quite warm through the window today in Wolverhampton. So it's nice, lovely weather, and hopefully it's a lovely result for Wolves tomorrow as well. Let me know your thoughts and score predictions in the comment section down below, guys. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch the podcast, which was released earlier on today. And until next time, I'll see you all very, very soon.